fallow at commercial banks' vaults.
Well, it's very difficult to predict how much we leave the commercial banks. Well, we are perfecting a system of collection. We are not perfecting a system of depriving commercial banks income. So we just want to make revenue collection a little bit more efficient, but in the process, it might influence the inflow to the commercial banks.
The directive is in keeping with the promise on December 17, 2014 by the Coordinating Minister for the Economy and Minister of Finance, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, that governments would block all leakages as part of measures to rev up revenue to make up for the shortfall caused by fall in oil prices at the international market. Finally, on the business package this morning, the price of Brent crude oil has fallen below $50 a barrel for the first time since May 2009. It fell more than $1 to $49.92 a dollar in early trading on Wednesday before edging back above the $50 mark. Slowing global growth at an increased supply of oil and gas have pushed prices sharply lower in recent weeks. The price now is over $15 lower than proposed crude oil benchmark of the 2014 appropriation presented to the National Assembly by the federal government of Nigeria. And that's the package on the business news for now. Thanks for watching. The program continues shortly.
All right, thank you for joining us. If you have just tuned in, you are on to the network service of the NTA, and our topic for conversation this morning on Good Morning Nigeria is the role of security operatives in ensuring a violence-free election coming up next month. We'll take a short break now.
The time has come once more for us to make the right choice. We did it before, we can do it again. Let us lay aside our differences and think about Nigeria. Let us vote for Good Luck Jonathan again.
Vote Good Luck Jonathan and Namadi Sambo for President and Vice President 2015. Vote PDP.
This message is brought to you courtesy Transformation Ambassadors of Nigeria. Done for one vision, Nigeria.
We said to you, we really love you. Thank you for being with us.
Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year.
When person do better, make we talk. Oh yes.
Good luck, Jonathan. So good work.
Good work for road. Good work for airport. Good work for education. Good work for health. Oh.
Good luck, Jonathan. So good work.
For agriculture.
Good work.
Transportation.
Good work.
For economy.
Good luck, Jonathan. So good work.
Nigeria done the better under President Goodluck Jonathan, but the work never finish. Oh, come join President Goodluck Jonathan and PDP for the carry go of the Goodluck Jonathan campaign. We go share them for Thursday, January 8, 2015 for Tafawa Balewa Square, Lagos from 11 a.m.
PDP power!
All right, you're welcome back to Good Morning Nigeria, which is reaching you live on the network service of the NTA. We are going up now to Newspaper Review, and Bayo Atoyebe is right here with us, the Good Morning Nigeria Newspaper Review. Bayo, welcome to today's edition.
Thank you, Kinsley.
Okay.
Good morning, Nigeria.
I think we should take this thing before we get on with it.
All right, we're beginning our review this morning with the very sad incident that took place in Paris, France yesterday involving the media. The one paper that I have, which obviously gives prominence to the story, is the leadership. And the leadership has as its kicker terrorist assault on media in Paris. Outrage over killing of editor and 3 cartoonists. Details are to be found on page 5, but there are a number of riders there. 8 others killed, 11 wounded. World leaders react and gunmen identified. You can see right there the photographs of the victims of the attack yesterday in Paris. There's a number of them. One of them was 80 years old. Another was in the 60s, another was in his late 50s. Now, that's the story that has outraged the world coming out of Paris. The editors, of course, that's a story that we have to discuss in the course of our review this morning. Now, another story we're taking from the front page of Leadership. Excess crude money not squandered. Okonjo-Iweala, details on page 16. And then Jonathan to INEC. All Nigerians must get PVCs before February 14th. And then also we're going over to the Nation newspaper. The Nation newspaper has above its name flag, APC kicks as DSS, that is the Department of State Services, also known as SSS, alleges plan to hack INEC data. Details are on page 6. Now, INEC to publish voters list on Tuesday, details on page 4. And Kadri is IWTF Athlete of the Year. And CBN rules out capital controls. But the lead story of the Nation newspaper says, Jonathan attacks Obasanjo and has a rider. Government, we didn't squander reserve. And also on the front page here, which is our second lead story, Buhari, insecurity, economy will be our main focus. And details will be found on page 4. And it has 2 riders there. APC candidate urges citizens to get PVCs, and campaigns in Calabar and Warri. Also there on the front page, Sultan seeks self-sustaining Hajj body, and 12 die in Paris attack on Media House. Now, the Guardian is the next paper. The lead story of the Guardian also says, DSS alleges APC's plot to hack into INEC database. DSS alleges APC's plot to hack into INEC database. Now, there are 2 riders to that story. Registration of 7 security personnel and others as members, and party, that's the APC, dismisses findings as hogwash, while the commission itself has also reacted. Now, on the front page of the Guardian, second lead story there, Jonathan and candidates task electoral body on voters card, and reps to meet Jega others over polls. On the front page also, why foreign reserves excess crude account depleted by Okonjo-Iweala, details on page 3. And 12 killed in terror attack at French magazine, details on page 9. Now, Glow CAF Award holds in Lagos today. Details to be found on page 62. That's the Guardian. Now, the next paper for us to review is People's Daily. People's Daily, just below the name flag of People's Daily. Provide PVCs to voters before election, President orders INEC. And reps have damning proof of executive slaves, that's according to Tambuwal. And gunmen attack radical French newspaper, kill 11, but other accounts say 12. Details to be found on page 5. Now, the next story, of course, says self-styled statesmen are touts. That's according to President Goodluck Jonathan. Second lead story, right there on the front page of People's Daily, Buhari denies link with Arab donors. Buhari denies link with Arab donors. raises 118 billion naira campaign funds. And then details are to be found on page 2. Also squeezed in there at the foot of the front page is a story. Shekau threatens to attack Cameroon in new video. Details are to be found on page 3. I take very quickly now the Daily Sun before Claire comes in with the other papers. Jonathan hits back at Obasanjo. Ex-president behaving like motopark tout. That's one of the writers to that story. And gives INEC marching orders on PVCs. That's detail to be found on page 5. Now, document exposes plot to collapse Nigeria's economy. Document exposes plot to collapse Nigeria's economy. And the writer says, organ trafficking from the country also part of plan. Details to be found on page 7. Again, another story says, Arab nations not funding me. That's according to Buhari. And promises to boost non-oil sector to enhance economy. And APC under fire over men's endorsement. Details to be found on pages 6 and 11. Those are the stories I'm taking from the front page of Daily Sun. Claire?
Okay, let's quickly take a look at the set I have. And I start off with the National Mirror. And the National Mirror, again, leads with the story, DSS accuses APC of plot to hack INEC server. And there are writers there, allegation of hogwash and the service to Nigeria. That's coming from the party, that's APC. Now, the picture story there is National Chairman of Progressive Congress, of course, and the presidential candidate at the party's presidential campaign rally in Uyo. That's on Tuesday. Below that picture story, no Arab country funds my campaign, says Buhari, accuses PDP of systematically destroying Nigeria. Details on page 2. Terrorists killed 12 in Paris newspaper office attack, page 50. And Aliyu warns against reenacting 2011 post-election violence, details on page 51. And just above the masthead, FG, federal government, justifies excess crude account foreign reserve spendings. Reserves now at $34.4 billion, says CBN. And on the other side, that's on the other column, investors panic over falling oil prices. Details you can find on page 4. And just to a story on the inside page, or quickly on page 11, you may find that report. IYC ex-militant flee men's endorsement of Buhari. And just a pointer that it's on page 11 of the National Mirror. Quickly to Blueprint, also leads with the same story. DSS, how APC plan to inflate membership. And it has a writer there, party dismisses findings as hogwash. Details on page 6. And the picture story there of the Public Relations Deputy Director of the SSS, Ms. Marilyn Oga, displaying some of their finds yesterday. Now, thugs attack APC candidate in Gombe. It's trending at the bottom. And Jusun strike. NLC blames federal government as NBA wants end to strike. Details on page 5. Also trending above, below the masthead, Buhari denies funding from Arab countries as fundraising hits 118.7 million naira. Details on page 46. Vanguard, leads with again, APC plan to hack into INEC database. DSS, it's a lead story, but other trending stories on the front page. $55 billion oil money. You got it wrong. Federal government replies Obasanjo. Details on page 14. And some senior citizens behave like motopark touts, coming from President Goodluck Jonathan. It's on page 8. And there are other trending stories there, of course, on the very front page. Now, Nigerian pilot, Buhari slums at Calabar rally. Details on page 4. Incident raises poser over his health status and he's unfit to rule. And this is coming from Fanny Cowdy. And the picture story there of President Goodluck Jonathan, chairman of the Northern Elders Council, Elijah Tanko Yekasai, and other, of course, Dr. Bello Haliru Mohammed there on the front page at the presidential villa during a courtesy call yesterday. That's the picture story on the front page. Jonathan to Jega, don't disenfranchise Nigerians, also trending on the front page. And there are other stories trending at the bottom of the paper there. Now, you can find Nigerian pilot. Now, moving on to Daily Trust. Daily Trust leads with some statesmen are touts. Jonathan says it's a lead story. And just above that story, below the masthead, APC planning to hack INEC database DSS. And okay, coming down, the picture story again that made the front page. Gunmen killed 12 in attack on French magazine. And that's the picture there of the firefighters and policemen outside the headquarters of the French satirical magazine paper there. That's Daily Trust. And finally, Newswatch Times. 23 states assemblies vote against local government autonomy. That's the lead story. And the picture story there again of the President Goodluck Jonathan, Vice President Namadi Sambo there with other dignitaries after the presentation of the 2014 Hajj report by the Presidential Committee on Hajj to the President in Abuja yesterday. Below that story, 2015 polls, PDP may not field candidates in Ondo. This is coming from INEC. And Mr. Bayatoibe, this story is very pathetic. It's just above the masthead there. Uni-band students burn government buses and block expressway. It's just above the masthead of the Newswatch Times. That's all I have, Bayo.
Thanks, Claire. Well, the world attention has been drawn to Paris, and all world leaders, including the Secretary General of United Nations, the President of France, USA, Prime Minister of UK and Germany, are all condemning the attack on a French satirical weekly known as Charlie Hebdo. 3 gunmen had attacked that weekly daily where they were holding their weekly editorial meeting and opened fire on them. They killed an editor, 2 renowned cartoonists, and 8 other journalists. In their getaway efforts, they also killed 2 policemen. But there has been outrage across France, and within an hour of the attack, over 3,000 policemen flooded the streets of Paris, and they commenced a manhunt for the killers. By the end of the day, one of the killers, having seen his name identified on the social media, gave himself up. His name is Hamid Mourid. He's 18 years old. 2 other brothers, Sharif and Said Kouachi, are still at large and are being sought for. People in Paris have come out to placards, and they have all assumed the title Je suis Charlie in condemnation of the attack and in solidarity with the satirical weekly. They say this is an attack on freedom of expression and democracy. In a similar way, there is a video making round purportedly coming from the Shekau, leader of the insurgency in Nigeria, that henceforth they are going to attack Cameroon and carry on across to Central African Republic. And therefore, they are internationalizing their attack away from Nigeria to Cameroon into Central African Republic. In the same vein, caution should be made about giving publicity to the activities of the insurgents. Like it has always been said, publicity becomes the oxygen of publicity for which they thrive. However, it is known that the intention of the terrorists is to occasion fear and terror in the minds of people. And when we give publicity to the success of the activities, we seem to give verve for it. INEC has been directed to ensure that all eligible voters receive their PVC and that no Nigerian voter is disenfranchised for the general election coming up this month. This directive was given by President Goodluck Jonathan while swearing in a new INEC commissioner, Professor Akinola Salau for Oyo State. At the same venue, the INEC chairman, Professor Atahiru Jigo, also vowed that all registered eligible voters will get their PVC before February 14th by the grace of God. In the same vein, all candidates in Lagos on the platform of the APC have all also complained that they want their 6 million registered voters in Lagos to get their PVC before February 14th general election. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives Committee on Electoral Matters has invited INEC and all interests who would stake in the election to a meeting to discuss the preparedness of the INEC and the political parties for the election. Casely, you recall that on November 20th, the DSS reported that after 2 weeks of surveillance, they raided what they call a warehouse in Lagos, and where they found some computer activities going on which was illegal. Immediately after, the APC came to identify that it was its computer center that was so violated without any warrant. DSS also alleged that before they invaded the place, they had carried out 2 weeks of surveillance and they had a search warrant. Yesterday, DSS came with a list of the things they have found there, which include videos training how to hack into computer systems and alleged efforts at cloning TVCs and PVCs, all about the election. They also allege that they had a list of membership of party and a process which had intention of infiltrating into INEC list of voters with fake ones so as to compromise the 2011 election. On the side of the APC, they have also denied that what the DSS has alleged is not true, that it is hogwash, and rather it is posting a public institution as behaving in a partisan manner. They will have their day in court. We don't want to take all those issues so that it will not appear as if it is becoming a trial in the media. They will have their day in court, and when all the evidences are come forth, it will be the duty of the judge to determine the case. There also was a controversy about National Reserve, and the Minister of Finance, the Minister in charge of the economy, had come forth with clarification. And he has said that it is not true that at the end of the tenure of President Obasanjo, they had a reserve of 55 billion. The facts have been put forward. They said that at the end of that administration in May 2007, the reserve had 43.13 billion. And by September 2008, when President Umar Musa Yar'Adua was in charge, the thing was beefed up to 62 billion. However, and at that time, the oil price in the world market was $147 per barrel. By September 2011, the central bank supported the economy of the nation by backing up the Nigeria's currency. And it was between the year 2008 and 2009 where there was a global recession that affected all currencies. And everybody remember that Nigeria rode that world collapse of the economy unscathed. And this was what the reserve was used for. As of today, it is not true that the reserve has been depleted. The minister in charge of the economy and the central bank confirms that the reserve stands today as $34.5 million.
Well, Bayo, just to buttress that, I'm sure, Claire, you recall, well, of course, in the weeks and months since we've been discussing the collapse of oil prices, the CBN itself said, listen, defending the naira using the external reserves was becoming quite challenging, which was why the exchange rate was revised some weeks ago. But just two quick stories. The first has to do with INEC and the directive that they ensure that all voters, eligible voters, get their PVCs. Now, INEC doesn't have a responsibility to go to distribute the cards to individual registrants in their various homes. If you recall, Claire, we also had two guests on this program sometime last year who said that the percentage of unclaimed or uncollected PVCs was quite high relative to persons who were collecting or who had collected their cards. So it's also the duty of persons who have been registered, registered voters, to go to the appropriate INEC office to collect, check and then if it's available, collect their PVCs. Second point, a story that Claire read, we also had a story yesterday. There's some crisis brewing in Edo State. The Edo State government, has dislodged the University of Benin from some buildings that it was occupying, 18 of them. The buildings were said to have been given to the university during its takeoff in the early 70s by the Obemudia military administration. Now, Obemudia has been out of office for 40 years, but it would appear that that crisis is one that is likely to linger because the students and ASU are all up in arms against the Edo State government, which actually moved in the bulldozers and put down one of the structures in the area.
I understand that the demonstration was sequel to the demolition of some of those property.
That's correct.
Yes.
That's correct.
Well, just before we go, Bayo,
yes.
I'd just like to point out something on page 48 of the Daily Trust, because we don't have time. We've run out of time. But this is very, very symbolic. It's a picture of a little girl, actually, sweeping a relaxation sport outside her house at a Kwali community, recently. A picture of a toddler really, sweeping. And in other times, I was wondering, will this be termed as child abuse?
Well,
there it is.
The definition of child abuse is sometimes very confounding. The clause of it is when a child under age is being used to do labor activities for which he or she is not ripe for, particularly when it is very exploitative. However, let me quickly add before you show me the yellow card that a Nigerian has been nominated as the world best athlete. This was done in Dubai yesterday. Okay. He is Haruna Kadiri. Haruna Kadiri won 2 awards. One for being the best athlete of the year, and the second for being the star point of the year in Dubai. Ironically, the Nigerian table tennis team is supposed to participate in a continental tournament in Egypt. As at now, they don't have sponsors and they may not be able to go.
Well, that's a challenge, and it's unfortunate. Bayo, we'd like to thank you for being with us on Good Morning Nigeria today, and we hope to see you tomorrow.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
All right. I don't know how to go. Okay, we'll just take a break before, of course, we begin our subject for conversation this morning. Do stay with us.
Shopee has ensured the reconstruction of the Abuja Lokoja Road and the East-West Road in Port Harcourt.
The standard gauge rail tracks from Abuja to Kaduna and Lagos to Kano indicate that our trains are coming back.
The second Niger Bridge in the southeast and the local Oweto Bridge in the north central are in progress, thanks to Shopee.
Shopee's mass transit program has made transportation easier for Nigerians.
Shopee has rehabilitated over 1,000 health centers across Nigeria.
Shopee has provided mama kits to pregnant women, and polio is on the verge of eradication.
Shopee has also ensured the provision of social amenities, and through its various training programs for young people, guarantees a better future.
Shopee, delivering service with integrity.
In 2013, John Obi Mikel of Chelsea Football Club and Super Eagles midfielder was crowned Nigeria's king of the pitch, and His Excellency Senator Leo Imoke CON Football Friendly Governor of the Year. Who will be Nigeria's king of football? Matchmakers Consult International and Nigerian Television Authority NTA presents the Nigerian Pitch Awards 2014 and its Night of Honors. Who will dethrone Vincent Iyama as goalkeeper of the year? Can Emmanuel Emeneke remain Nigeria's striker of the year? Will Kano Pillars remain Nigeria's best club side? In 2013, you voted Super Eagles coach Stephen Kesh as coach of the year. Toyin Ibitoye, football journalist of the year TV. Adeojo Kere, football journalist of the year print. Bimbo Adeola, football journalist of the year radio. Chief Felix Anyansi, manager of the year. Guinness Nigeria PLC, best corporate sponsor of football of the year. And Lagos State, a state with the best grassroots football development program. Nigeria Pitch Awards, Nigeria's own football award.
When person do better, make we talk. Oh yes.
Good luck, Jonathan. Not so good work.
Good work for road. Good work for airport. Good work for education. Good work for health. Oh.
Good luck, Jonathan. Not so good work.
For agriculture.
Good work.
Transportation.
Good work.
For economy.
Good luck, Jonathan. Not so good work.
Nigeria done the better under President Goodluck Jonathan, but the work never finish. Oh, come join President Goodluck Jonathan and PDP for the carry go of the Goodluck Jonathan campaign. We go share them for Thursday, January 8, 2015 for Tafawa Balewa Square, Lagos from 11 a.m. PDP! Power!
All right, thank you for staying tuned. This is the network service of the NTA, and you're watching Good Morning Nigeria. Now, to set the tone for our conversation this morning on the program, correspondent Gabriel Odo gives us an insight into the training program for thousands of security personnel who are expected to take part in, of course, providing security during next month's elections, of course, beginning February the 14th. Now, Gabriel reports that the training is part of the electoral umpire, that's INEC, effort at sensitizing key stakeholders in the electoral process to achieve its promise of conducting the best ever possible elections in the history of Nigeria.
8 security agencies are involved in the training, meant to sharpen skills toward the security of election materials, personnel, electorate, as well as the general environment during and after the elections. INEC chairman, represented by Dr. Ismail Igbani, reassured Nigerians of a peaceful conduct of elections.
When there is election in Nigeria, there is always some form of tension. So it is very, very important that we have peaceful elections. It is very important that voters come out to vote without fear.
The politicians have to play by the rules of the game. They must obey the rule of Electoral Act. If they obey it, the police will do their work.
It's absolutely important that we also make the security agencies themselves to see what it is that international best practices entail, and to be able to internalize this and deploy in their conduct.
The Electoral Institute also informed that about 440,000 security personnel will be trained nationwide, and that only trained personnel will be deployed during and after the election.
All right, Gabriel, thanks a lot for that background. Now we have joining us to begin the conversation on the issue of election security, 2 guests. One is Professor Abubakar Momo, who is Director General of the Electoral Institute, one of the associated bodies of INEC. And also with us is Mr. Ifeanyi Agoha. Mr. Ifeanyi Agoha is Coordinator, Election Risk Management Office of INEC. Mr. Agoha, welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. Professor Abubakar Momo also would like to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria. But we're kicking off with Mr. Agoha, who is the coordinator of the Election Risk Management Office.
Thank you.
What are the sources of risk, as it were, to electioneering, in particular to next month's general elections in this country?
Thank you for that question. The sources of risk as related to 2015 general elections are many and varied. You will recall, let me take it from here. You will recall that after the 2011 general elections, people went to sleep because it was adjudged to be the most freest and credible elections Nigeria has conducted in the very past. But unfortunately, something happened that shook the country. There was post-election violence. And that gave the Commission a lot of food for thought, because it was a paradox. Paradox in the sense that this is an election that was adjudged to be free and fair, and at the end of the day, there was post-election violence. So what do we do from there? It was in that regard that a lot of research was put in place to know where we can go as an election management body to stop this kind of urge in terms of violence as it relates to election. Fortunately for us, International IDEA came up with a tool called Election Risk Management Tool. The Commission discussed with them, AU, African Union came on board, and at the end of the day, a kind of MOU was signed last year after a workshop to sensitize the Commission on the need to do this thing. Because countries like Kenya that was able to use it will have seen their benefit. Because they did an election that a lot of people died. And at the end of the day, when they applied these two, they were able to be in a position to map, to understand, analyze, and offer solutions in respect of how they can be able to minimize, if not ameliorate, electoral-related risk. So that was how INEC key into the project. And as of today, as we are speaking, a lot has happened in that regard. Fortunately for us also, we have a kind of collaboration with our security agencies in this country. There is a kind of consultative agency committee on election security, where all bodies, security agencies that take care of things in Nigeria are there. So to come back to your question, there are a lot of sources. It could be internal, it could be external. Internal in the sense that those things that are related to administration of election in Nigeria, in terms of cases like our voter registration, our planning, logistics, our operational base. If we don't do it well, it could trigger off election-related risk. If you look at the external factors, you begin to see issues like insurgency, issues like internally displaced persons. You see issues like political parties not being able to put their house in order in terms of internal party democracy. So such things are the issues we are mapping with the intention or the intent to make sure that we forecast, we are in a position to understand, not waiting until the thing happens. We can be able to get it, nip it at the bud, and be able to allow security agencies to tap from the source.
Okay, Mr. Agoha, we'll keep you on hold for the moment. Let's join Professor Momo. Professor Momo, sometimes when we talk about risk management with regards to electoral process, we tend to, focus our attention on what happens after election. But like Kingsley said, there are several sources, of risk in an electioneering process. So have we, again, probably you should help us articulate, have we been able to identify these sources? And if so, how do we intend to, address them? Or how are you addressing them?
Yeah, just like Mr. Ago has rightly and eloquently articulated, the Commission with International IDEA. International IDEA is an organization that deals on issues and matters relating to elections and democracy, and it is based in Stockholm with membership of over 130 to 140 countries. Along with AU, with financial support and assistance, they've been able to come to train, give technical backup and assistance, do a TOT for our staff, and then we have been able to start an outline mapping strategy and all that, and using that to begin to see how we can apply this concretely to realities. And this has two components. One is called the base, and the other is called the AMVAT. The AMVAT has to do with the mitigation and violence tools and training, which focus essentially on security personnel, like what we are carrying out or what we've been carrying out in the last 3 days. And the other has to do with BASE, which has to do with basic education for civil society groups, for election officials, and so on. So we are hoping that through this, we'll be able to equip and tool all critical stakeholders, not just security personnel, but other stakeholders in the civil society, in neighborhoods and communities that have interest in ensuring peace and mitigating violence before, during, and after the election. So we have started the process. It's scientific. It's a tool that has 3 major components. in terms of researching, gathering data, and applying the data that we have gathered, feeding into all necessary security agencies and neighborhoods and opinion leaders, traditional leaders, neighborhood leaders, community leaders, community associations, neighborhood associations, neighborhood watches, and critical groups, civil society organizations that are concerned about security questions. So I think that in some way, it's a kind of collective ownership, if you prefer me to use that word, you know, of the security architecture during electoral exercises in the country. And I think it has worked in other countries. Like he said, you recall the last election that Kenya had, over 1,000 people were killed. But in the, two elections that, Kenya had, over 1,000 people were killed. But in the last election they almost had zero tolerance for violence. And the reason and the core secret, not the main, the only reason for this, is precisely because this tool was applied, it's scientific, and they were able to achieve results. And this also has been applied in many other countries in the world. And we've test run it. And in many by-elections, many of you may not know by-elections and proper elections. For example, it was used in Ekiti, it was used in Osun, and it was used in a few other by-elections. And it is one reason why there was not so much violence in some of these elections.
Well, I mean, either of you could take this question. What were those ingredients in the success story that Kenya witnessed in its elections, rather than what the world saw in 2007 and 2008, when, as Professor Momo rightly said, over 1,000 persons were killed? What did Kenya get right, and what have we tried to do in Ekiti, for instance, and Osun? And if we try to do those things, did we get them right?
Well, as he was trying to explain, Kenya, in the last two elections, there was this kind of violence. And they could not understand what was going on. So it was like something hit them from nowhere. So at the end of the day, they were able to analyze to see that there are issues that, if properly handled, could have stopped at a certain level.
What were those issues?
Issues like, how are we preparing for this election? What are the things, logistics arrangements we need to put in place? Do we need consultations with other stakeholders in the process? So how elaborate is our relationship? You know, what can we do in terms of voter education to be in a position to allow the people to know the process? Because it is dangerous and it is unthinkable that people may not know what the commission is doing, but they are doing a lot. So at the end of the day, they open up the system by expanding their consultation levels to be in a position to allow people to get to know what is happening. And at the end of the day, they were also able to bring the political parties on board to tell them that this thing is not a question of trying to kill another person for you to be there. If you kill everybody, who will vote for you? So at the end of the day, it is for development that democracy was entrenched. And if you kill the development in terms of human capital development, who will benefit from the development that democracy is supposed to offer us? So they were able to strategize, put structures on ground, and we are able to monitor what was going on and releasing the maps, telling the stakeholder that this is what is going on. If we don't check these things from now, another factor will come in, and from there it will escalate. So they were able to put those things in place and try to allow their people to understand that the election is a process. It is not an event. Because if you follow the process, you will see that the end result, you have already known it. But if you don't follow the process, you begin to see the end result as if it was a manipulation by certain quarters. But if you follow the process, you will believe that once the process is credible, the end result will definitely be credible because it is given. But if you don't follow the process, like we do advocate in Nigeria, politicians should not wait until election day for them to begin to campaign or for them to begin to monitor what the Electoral Commission is doing. They should be able to be in place to know that election is 4 years. And it does not end. As a process, once election finishes, you need to monitor what the commission is doing. You need to begin to sensitize their people. You need to begin to update their party list. You need to begin to know that once election finishes, another election is already going on.
Well, Mr. Agoha, thanks for that perspective. And Claire, just before you introduce our next guest, let me pop this question to Professor Momo. It's one of the sources of public anger, an anger which could then boil over into violence, namely the way INEC organizes its affairs, which in this particular case has to do with voters going to the polling booth and not finding their names on the voters' register. In such circumstances, you can only appeal to the voters. But if the appeal falls on deaf ears, sometimes voters do take the laws into their own hands, believing that they are being disenfranchised. Are we likely to overcome that almost perennial challenge in our electoral system?
No, most certainly I can say that with some measure of confidence. The iFace, which INEC tried to use, the automated fingerprint system, which is weeding out names, was basically to ensure that those who registered more than once were cleaned up from the register. And even if INEC quite inadvertently omitted your name for the register, there's a backup. There are at least 3 major ways by which your name can be checked now. It can be checked electronically. It can be checked manually to register, and then can be checked through the cleaned iFace system. So there are 3 major checks, and indeed, if you use your card reader, as it were, immediately you slot it in, there's every probability that it will indicate your particulars, and it will capture and release your document. So if for any reason, and it's a very remote possibility, I'm not saying it is not possible, it is omitted, then this data will be shown. The presiding officer will reconcile with his team, and they will exercise discretion accordingly. But I think what is most important is the earlier challenge that was posed by your team, namely what happens with the uncleared PVCs. It is not just a one-way issue about people not being able to access these PVCs. It's also another point that people are not going to collect these PVCs. So that, quite strangely, you find out that if you look at certain parts of the geopolitical zones in the country, there's high turnout, and percentages are impressive in terms of collection. But you look at other part of the country, there's average or even low turnout, red to amber. And you begin to wonder. I have not examined to know what exactly accounts for this. Why are people not able to access this PVC? So I'm saying that we should be fairly clear about what the issues are. We have one, PVCs that have not been collected for reasons that are inexplicable. PVCs that have not been collected on account of the fact that people do not know that they should go to local government offices and meet EOs, election officers, to collect them, believing that because people did not show up physically at certain points for them to collect, and therefore it means that they are disenfranchised and they cannot vote. And of course, the third one are those whose PVC are not yet ready and will be ready definitely for collection. So these are 3 categories, and I'm urging everyone to try as much as possible to access hotlines, to go to local government offices, and to ask questions and get definite answers, precise answers as to, 1, if their PVCs are not ready, when would they be ready? If they are ready, why are they not able to collect those PVCs? And then if it's a case of being captured more than once or whatever it is, then what next should they do? I think it's very pertinent because it's civic right, it's a civic responsibility, civic right on the part of the prospective voter, civic responsibility on the part of INEC officials to carry this exercise through and to ensure that everybody gets his permanent voter's card.
All right, Prof, we thank you. We, of course, for your perspective. Now, Babatunde Osemoje is a retired major and a member of a thematic group on Security Vision 2020, also a legal practitioner. He joins us live from our Benin Network Center. Mr. Osemoje, thank you for joining our conversation this morning. Now, in 2011, during the 2011 elections, one of the positive fallout was the setting up of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security, and of course, the history has, records the achievement of that committee. Now, in 2015, in a few weeks' time, of course, INEC will be conducting another election. It has promised to give Nigerians the best possible ever, election in our history. Are you confident that, in terms of providing electoral security, that INEC is on the right track?
I want to say that INEC is on the right track, because INEC is doing what it ought to do. Security failure, from my perspective, is not because INEC have done what is wrong, but because politicians prepare their people for violence. Snatching of ballot boxes or doing things that are wrong do not emanate from actions or inactions of INEC. But the utterances of political leaders, like you've been seeing in the past few weeks or days, are the things that lead to violence. I had one of your guests explaining the issue in answer to what your other colleague asked about the issue of ability to vote. And I think he was quite right. A lot of times, the voters register by the Electoral Act, supposed to be published before, at least 2 weeks before the election. A lot of voters do not take pains to go and check if their names are there. But like I said, the most important thing is that the utterances of our political leaders prepare the mind of the youths who are mainly jobless to take up arms for violence. I can give you a typical example. In 1983, I was the candidate for the UPN, or the Onwa Federal Constituency. Incidentally, I won that election. By 12 midnight, my contacts came to tell me that 126 thugs have been camped in a hotel in Onwa East, what is presently Onwa East today. I went up to the commission, to the DPU. That was what, that was not something the electoral body then could handle. So the DPO promised me not to bother, that they would take prompt action. He delayed. He went there at about 5 o'clock. By the time he got there, he only met about 45 of the 126. And as a matter of fact, they did a lot of havoc during and after the election. So I think that INEC is doing the best it ought to do. But political leaders who are saying we will form parallel government, which is illegal, that itself is supposed to be a treasonable statement, or telling people, go and defend your votes. How do you defend your votes? That's a question that they have not told us. But the problem is that these people are paid pittance to put their lives on the line, and they see it as a means of livelihood. So the only area where I think INEC needs to come in is to educate the youths. As a matter of fact, in the Second Republic, the youth wing of parties were not permitted. But today, all the political parties, or the major political parties, have youth wings. This is not something that INEC itself can do. It's the National Assembly that should pass or amend the Electoral Act, ensuring that the parties do not have youth wings.
Barrister Osemoje, thanks a lot again for giving us the benefit of your experience over 30 years ago during the Second Republic. Now, one point that we're all agreed on here is that, that's the contributor so far, INEC is not necessarily the source of violence, even though some glitches in its operations could spark some violence. But violence often will come from the external. I would like you to deliberate on this very briefly so that the viewers can have some benefit. I will come back again to Professor Mama with regard to training. In addition to campaign thugs on the eve of election for the purposes of disrupting the election or causing violence, there are also instances where political actors have sewn uniforms, security uniforms, mostly anti-riot police uniforms, and distributed this to bogus policemen who then go about fomenting trouble either at polling stations or at collating centers. How can we overcome that challenge?
Well, the first part of your question I didn't get properly because there was a lot of distortions at this end of the NTA. But the other part about sewing of uniform, this used to be very rampant during the Second Republic. My worry is that nobody has ever been punished for these offenses. And for as long as our courts and our legal practitioners do not put these things as a priority issue, because when people are punished, they serve as deterrent to others who would think of doing this. Again, is the political actors, these are things that are thought out at the leadership level of the political structure. No ordinary person will go and start making police uniform or army uniform for himself, except the armed robbers who either buy or seize uniform from stations or barracks where they overrun. So the political parties, anybody who is caught and is able to identify the political party that is inclined to, should be visited with severe punishment. That would deter both the political party and the culprit who have been caught wearing the uniform that is not entitled to wear. That is impersonation, which laws have provided punishment for. The people should be properly punished so that to serve as deterrent to would-be actors and the political parties who are the ones who actually provide the funds for the sewing of the uniform and distribute to the thugs they have recruited.
Okay.
Yes. Claire, I'm sorry. Let me just follow up on this point that we're discussing, namely the use of illegal security personnel and uniforms. Professor Momo, take a look at this as part of the training regime that you've been conducting. How does a voter, or how do voters identify genuine security operatives in the course of elections? Because what has happened, and what happened in the past, was that you had situations where people put on these false uniforms and then fomented trouble or caused trouble, and people will say, look, security agencies are the ones disrupting elections. How do we identify the genuine from the bogus?
You see, the first thing is that they are, in all probability, going to have proper synergy, organic relationship with the polling officials on election day. The key point, however, is that they will not be obtrusive. Police security personnel that are likely to be fake would not come at the exact time election, for example, are supposed to commence. They are likely to infract into the activities, and they are likely also to be very, very obtrusive. This has always been the experience, of those who study this. But in saying this also, let me just make a few points that are very important. Number one, studies have shown that of the slightly over 1 million small arms and light weapons in West Africa, over 70% of them are in Nigeria. Studies have also shown that Nigeria has over 250 unmanned porous borders. These in themselves constitute huge security problems for us that also allow all manner of people to come in. Already we're hearing all kinds of stories, rumors of war, rumors of break-up, trying to walk into a self-fulfilling prophecy, and the political rhetoric and how hate speech and so on is overheating the polity. And I'm saying that all of this, whether we like it or not, constitute pre-election violence and may constitute trigger factors that will actually lead to violent clashes. And the key thing that you also need to note is that throughout Nigerian history, you never found people who have been prosecuted appropriately, jailed for such actions, either politicians or their hirelings and whatever, unless we begin to make example of people to show that the country has zero tolerance for violence, whereby anybody caught is appropriately handed over, prosecuted in court, jailed accordingly, according to electoral offenses and so forth and so on. If you really have high caliber politicians or candidates who are engaged in hate speech and all these rhetorics and all that, you appropriately prosecute them and put them in jail and so on. You make example. But the moment people feel that they can say all of these things and get away with it, either on account of their status or on the account of the fact that they have some people high up there and so on, people will continue to say these things. People will continue to do these things, and the stakes will be so high in the country.
Okay, we're looking at, basically the role security operatives, should play and how they can help to check violence during these elections. I said earlier on when I started, Mr. Agoha, that in 2011, one of the positive fallouts was the establishment of a committee, interagency consultative committee. And this is a committee that brings together security operatives from different agencies. Yeah. Yes, and they played a very critical role in checking violence at the time. What positive fallouts from that initiative are we leveraging for 2015? Definitely. We are comprehensively leveraging on that for 2015 in the sense that a lot has happened. We have tried to bring them at par with what the Commission is doing. You agree with me that the present Commission has put a lot of reforms in place in terms of accreditation processes, voting processes, voter education, and things like that. So, based on that, we package a 3-day training for all the security agencies that are part of the ISAS committee. It is ongoing. Today is the last day. We've done the first day, we've done the second day, and a lot has come out of it. Why? Because you cannot manage what you don't know. That is the essence of that training. The accreditation process is going to change because we are now going to use verification machines called card reader. And we have gotten permanent voters card. And the Commission has said that it cannot vote without your permanent voters card. That is why what Prof has just rightly said is that go collect your permanent voters card. The era of temporary voters card is over. With your permanent voters card, you can be able to be read by the authentication machine. And once you do that, you will be cleared to start to vote. But if you don't, you will stay there. So most of the police officers don't even know, or security agencies don't even know that we have gotten such method of authentication. So this training has offered us that opportunity to explain to them. We have also improved on the capacity of electoral personnel in terms of the polling stations. Instead of normal 3 you are going to see, you begin to see 4 personnel at a polling station. And we have also tried to see how we can make our voting environment voters friendly by creation of voting points, which has reduced the number of persons at a particular place. But that does not mean that the polling station does not exist. It does exist. But what we have done is that the time people spend
trying to do authentication or trying to do voting will now be less, because creation of voting points has enabled us to decentralize the polling stations. We have also tried to leverage on the ISAS committee, because the electoral risk management too deals on information assessment and gathering. We rely on them to feed us with information. They also rely on the tool to get information from us to do their work. So in terms of planning and implementation, ISAS is there. In terms of knowledge and training, the Electoral Institute is there. In terms of tool application, identification, that is where we have the ERM2. It is a tripartite setup. And remember that the Commission has also introduced what we call the situation rooms and INEC Citizens Center, contact center, where we monitor what happens at the various areas. And in Osun and Ekiti, we were able to use the instrumentality of the RAC and super RAC structures to be able to stay closer to the polling units. And some of these things, most of the security agencies don't know that we no longer move from the local government to the polling station. We now move from the RAC. And sometimes it was interesting because some of the polling officials were able to even trek to their polling to their stations without having the need to go with a vehicle. So we have been able to use that method to enter the field on time, reduce the risk associated with opening polls lately, and increase the confidence of the voters. And the credibility of the election has also been increased using the leverage of the ISAS.
Okay, on that note, I would like to thank Mr. Ifeanyi Agoha. He's the election risk, is of the Election Risk Management Office of INEC, and Professor Abubakar Momo is the Director General of the Electoral Institute of INEC. We wish you the very best. If the need arises, Claire, we may have to tap on them again for a discussion.
Definitely.
Yes,
very critical stakeholders.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, gentlemen, we'd like to thank you for coming on Good Morning Nigeria. But for our viewers, we still have Mr. Babatunde Osamoje at the Benin Network Center, and we'll return to him and another guest right here at the Abuja studios. In the meantime, we'll go on a short break now.
We said to you, we really love you. Thank you for being with us.
Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year.
The 2015 general elections will soon be conducted. Voters, candidates and their supporters, as well as the general public, are enjoined to ensure that the elections are peaceful and hitch-free. Shun do-or-die politics, violence, thuggery, snatching of materials, or disruption of election in any polling unit or any malpractice that can mar the conduct of the elections. Do not attempt to vote more than once, nor harass any voter and election official. Let us accept election results with the spirit of sportsmanship. It's our collective duty to make the elections peaceful and successful. INEC, making your votes count, consolidating our democracy.
When person do better, make we talk. Oh yes. Good luck, Jonathan. So good work. Good work for road. Good work for airport. Good work for education. Good work for health. Oh. Good luck, Jonathan. So good work. For agriculture. Good work. Transportation. Good work. For economy. Good luck, Jonathan. So good work.
Nigeria done the better under President Goodluck Jonathan, but the work never finish. Oh, come join President Goodluck Jonathan and PDP for the carry go of the Goodluck Jonathan campaign. We go share them for Thursday, January 8, 2015 for Tafawa Balewa Square, Lagos from 11 a.m. PDP power!
All right, we thank you for staying with us. And again, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria conversation. This morning is centered on providing electoral security. How can security operatives and what role should they be playing at this point in time? And we have joined us live here in the studio, Barrister Mike Ejiofor, and Barrister Mike Ejiofor is Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Apex Safety and Security, and of course, retired Director, SSS. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, if we look at the conduct of elections, this will be the fourth that INEC will be conducting, and it keeps getting better and better in terms of sophistication, in terms of innovation and reforms. Now, these reforms and innovations are meant to ensure credibility and violence-free, of course, as regards 2015 election. In terms of providing electoral security, what are your concerns about our security operatives?
Well, before I go into the concerns we have for 2015 elections, we should look at the trend that has been ongoing since 1999 in terms of security, provision of security for elections. You see, in 1999, that was conducted by the military. 2003, it was neither here nor there in terms of credibility of the elections. In 2007, that brought President Yar'Adua to power. He himself admitted that the election itself was not credible, and assured that there will be improvement before President Jonathan came in, and with his program of transformation. And in other areas, he has been carrying out the transformation and has assured Nigerians that the will of the people must always prevail. You've seen the elections conducted in Anambra, they were hitches. You've seen the one conducted in Ekiti, there was an improvement in Ondo, Osun, Ekiti. And INEC has been improving in terms of credibility of the elections. And this, apart from the efforts of the INEC, the security agencies contributed immensely in ensuring credible elections. The fact remains that in the previous elections, they were mostly issues of ballot box stuffing and snatching, thuggery, and the rest of them. But with measures put in place by INEC, this is almost impossible to do now. And that is why it's important that people should go ahead and collect their PVCs. So that's for the electoral process. Then my concern for the 2015 election, we have challenges. You see, the elections that were conducted were isolated cases, but we're now having a general election. The question is, do we have sufficient manpower to man all the polling booths? Of course, the answer is no. So that is why it's important that we should all get involved, civil society organizations. We should not leave it to security agencies alone. We involve the security agencies, involve civil society organizations, religious leaders, politicians in particular, because we want to review this election in terms of security before, during, and after the elections. If you look at statements being made by some politicians from both divides, they are capable of inflaming passion and throwing this country into unpredictable crisis. So the security agencies must ensure that decisive actions are taken to bring to book people who are making inflammatory statements before the election. Then during the election, we have a lot of challenges. During the election, you see, I'm happy where the last discussant from the INEC this thing tried to put up some issues like joint training by INEC. It is INEC that determines the electoral offenses as stipulated in the Electoral Act. So it's not the duty of the security agencies. The police is the forefront of the conduct of elections because they are closer to the people. So they must ensure that stations, polling booths are adequately manned during the election. And before the election, campaign rallies, the venues of campaign rallies, we must ensure adequate security because we are looking at the issue of the challenges of the conducting election in the Northeast. That the president, at least 2 days ago, met with the governors, and governors assured, yes, we want the election held, but we should do certain things, do the needful in terms of getting the electorate to know their rights, know what is expected of them, because you cannot leave these things to security agencies. We don't have sufficient manpower. That's the greatest concern. And we need to educate our people. And that's why it is good now that, like the other man said, there are joint training between the various security agencies and INEC. When these trainings are, the offenses are determined, the security agencies must be in place to take action based on the directives from INEC, because they are the body statutorily charged to conduct elections.
Well, Barrister Mike Ejiofor, I'll have a question for you subsequently, but as I said before you came on set, we still have Barrister Babatunde Osemoje, who is speaking to us from the Benin Network Center, a retired major, and of course a politician of the Second Republic. Right there on the split screen is to the right of your screen. Barrister Osemoje, let's take a look at this. We had complaints in Ekiti and Osun of the so-called over-militarization of the polling. And here is Barrister Mike saying that we're likely to face a challenge of security personnel being thinly spread over the critical points in the course of voting and actually immediately after voting itself. But a curious point that he raised, and which is one I would like you to explore further, he says everybody should be involved, you know, religious leaders, traditional rulers, and so on and so forth. What, in your opinion, should be the degree of involvement without slipping over into chaos?
Well, for the religious leaders, I think when they are on their pulpits, they should be able to preach to their various congregations that their participation should be to give honor to Christ if they are Christians, and to also honor Muhammad if they are Islam, if they are Muslims. But outside that, there is not much they can do at the polling booths where violence can occur. Because the main problem that leads to security breaches is attitudinal. The politician who is contesting election wants to win at all costs. If you go back to the recent primaries of the various political parties, particularly of the two major parties, you will know that there were serious breaches of, there were serious occurrence of violence all over the place because nobody wants to lose. And in any case, where 3, 4, or 5 people are contesting, only one can emerge, but no one wants to be among those who will be called also ran. And the main reason is because politicians see going into elective positions or even be appointed as investment. They see them as opportunity to make money for themselves. They don't see them as opportunity to serve. If our attitude change, we don't need soldiers to man specific areas. Soldiers don't go close to the polling units, that I must first say. They stay at areas where people will pass through before they get through to the polling units. But for the police who are supposed to remain at the polling units, they don't on their own have authority to arrest unless the presiding officer so directs. That is what the Electoral Act stipulates. And a lot of times, the polling presiding officers are not bold or courageous enough to ask the policeman or the most senior of the two policemen on duty, because they are usually two in most of the cases, to arrest somebody who is creating problems. Then 3, I think the INEC must also be very, very efficient in the distribution of materials. A situation where people get to the polling booth before 8 o'clock and 12 o'clock election materials have not gotten there, they become restless. And before you know it, the tempers are flaring up, even for ordinary things that don't concern the election. These are some of the things that I think I have praised INEC, because if you compare INEC personnel with what happens at the state, I think those in the INEC are angels. At least I was witness to what happened in Edo State during the local government election, and I participated in the tribunal. And some of the things we saw are things that should have made officers of ITSEC to be in prison by now. A situation where 2 result sheets were used, 2 different sets of result sheets were used to proclaim result. 2 different sets of candidates were proclaimed, and ITSEC office, those state independent electoral commission officers never reported to the police that their result sheets were stolen, should have led to these people being put in prison. But because they did the bid of the government in power in the state, they were seen as angels and were praised. So these are some of the things, but the good thing is that INEC will not degenerate, do not degenerate to this, but if materials are not properly distributed and on time.
Well, Barrister Somoje, speaking to us from the Benin Network Center. Just before we sign you off, that's for a few seconds only, that's the much time we have. We've said here, persons who commit electoral offenses should be prosecuted. And Professor Momo said, look, they should be put into jail. But I'm just wondering, and Barrister Mike will also respond to this, but just from you, who should be the proper prosecutor for electoral offenses, the state or the federal?
I think it should be the federal, because it's a federal offense.
Mr. Babatunde Somoje, retired major and also a legal practitioner, who spoke to us from the Benin Network Center. Thank you for being with us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you.
Come back to Abuja, where Barrister Mike Ejiofor is sitting right here. Barrister Mike, you were nodding when Barrister Somoje was saying that it's a federal offense, and therefore the DPP federal, should take up the offenses. I should take up the prosecution of the matter. But it's a matter that we'll get to subsequently. Let's deal with the role, for instance, of the security agencies, which is our core point. Claire raised that point earlier. When thugs are planning, when illegal uniforms are being sewn, and bogus policemen and security agencies are being deployed, these things don't happen overnight. Are we seeing here a failure of intelligence, or just the crass compromise of the intelligence services?
Well, your question is very interesting, because only yesterday, that's why I say the electoral process are segmented before, during, and after elections. The State Security Service, for instance, yesterday paraded, some people from APC were arrested for doing things that are illegal. And you saw it in the news. These are part of efforts by the security agencies to make sure the electoral process is credible. If, without prejudice, all those things have been allowed to take place without being detected, of course, you see, it's going to affect the credibility of the outcome of the elections. So these are matters, and it is not everything that the police or the state security service get across during this that they make known to the public. But when it's manifestly obvious that it's going to affect the process, they come out to tell you about what they're doing. Some thugs are always arrested. Some people are in the process of trying to do. You know, it's one interesting thing that INEC has done. That it is now almost impossible, very difficult for you to manipulate the process. That is why if you don't have your PVC, it's going to be very difficult for you to. And it makes the works of the security agencies less cumbersome.
Okay, Barrister Jeffo, we have just less than 2 minutes or so to end this conversation. But quickly, now, until we get to the stage where we'll no longer require the presence of security operatives in our election sites or places, their relevance is still very critical.
Yeah.
But most times, you find that they're being accused of either being too overbearing, that those deployed, to man the elections, to provide security, are accused of either being too overbearing or even unfriendly or antagonistic, even against those that they're supposed to be protecting. What should be the conduct of security operatives at elections, during elections, and post-elections?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you see, like I said, before the election, the INEC should be able to educate the voters on their rights and their conduct. There has to be an interface between the security agencies and the INEC, which is what is ongoing now, where offenses are clearly defined and the rules and responsibilities of the various security agencies. So these are issues that will be taken care of by INEC. Then after the election, of course, there are bound to be reactions, post-election violence, and you cannot rule it out. So the agency should now be prepared to curtail such violence, because there's no way you can rule it out. Either way, people must react. But I think we'll get to a stage where we'll rely less now on the security agency's deployment at the polling booths. And I think that's what INEC is going to. They should be commended for that. And everybody should give them support.
All right, Barrister Mike Ejiofor, retired director, SSS, and a security consultant. Thank you for your perspectives on this issue. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. We take a short break, and when we come back, we'll be looking at developments in sports. And okay, I'm told to go right straight to sports. Kingsley?
Well, that's right, Claire. In sports, Musbah Odan Wahab examines the chances of Nigerian nominee and goalkeeper Vincent Iyama as the CAF Awards get down to the wire this evening in Lagos.
A quick one from the world of sports. The most expected moment this year as CAF today announced the best of African players in different categories. First, a look at the categories. Nigeria captain and goalkeeper Vincent Iyama, Gabonese Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and the current African Footballer of the Year, Yaya Toure of the Ivory Coast, are the shortlist into the final three for the 2014 African Footballer of the Year award. CAF announced the three finalists for this year's award on the official website on Christmas Day. According to the Confederation of African Football CAF, the three men were picked by head coaches or technical director of the various national associations. Iyama becomes the first goalkeeper to make the final three in the African Footballer of the Year award in more than 2 decades. The lead man could also become the first goalkeeper to win the award in 28 years after legendary Moroccan goalkeeper Badao Zaki beat his countrymen Aziz Baudabala and Cameroon's Roger Milla to win the award in 1986 when it was still organized by France Football. Young sensation Aziza Toshuala made the final three for Women's Player of the Year award alongside teammates Desire Paranozie and Aneta Ngom Union of Cameroon. Asisa Toshoala is also in the last three for Women's Youth Player of the Year. The other two in this category are teammates Uchechi Sunday and Fabrice Ondua of Cameroon. For the national team of the year, Nigeria is in the last three with Algeria and Libya. Also, Nigeria senior team and Nigeria under-20 team make the last three with Cameroon for Women's National Team of the Year. Since 1992, only Samuel Eto'o of Cameroon has won the award 4 times, while Yaya Toure won the 3 previous editions. Vincent Nyama and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang have not won it at any time. Golden Eagles coach Emmanuel Amunike won the same award in 1994 after Rashidi Yekini believes there is a chance of winning for Vincent Nyama.
In the national team, he has been very, very outstanding. In the World Cup, we saw his performances. In the last edition of Nations Cup that Nigeria won, we saw his performances. I think for him to be nominated, it shows that he's been among the best along the year. But when you look at the other nominees like Yaya Toure and the guy from Gabon, Obauma, you could also see that they've been very, very outstanding in their various clubs, also in the national team. Both players, they all have the chances of winning it, but it all depends on those that are voting. That's the coaches, the captain of the national teams, and maybe the members of CAF. I think they are the ones to decide, but looking at it, whomever that will win it, I think deserve it.
Super Falcon star Asisa Toshoala, who made it into the last 3 in 2 categories, is confident ahead of the announcement, but she would not play down the place of luck.
First of all, I really appreciate it. I think the organizers of this CAF award for at least making me feel appreciated, and also being nominated alone is something. Anything can happen, nobody can take it home. But at least being nominated alone is something.
The award is coming up later today in Lagos. Good luck to Nigerian nominees in the awards.
All right, a quick look at developments on the foreign scene, and the Kenyan prosecutors are investigating the murder of the International Criminal Court trial witness, and also 38 people killed and dozen others injured in massive bomb blast near Police Academy in Yemeni capital. Oyeyemi Ajayi has all the details.
Thank you and welcome to the Foreign News. Kenyan prosecutors have ordered an investigation into the murder of a witness in the International Criminal Court ICC trial of Kenyan Vice President William Ruto, who is accused of masterminding post-election killings in 2007. Meshach Yebai, described by Ruto's lawyer as a critical witness for the politician's defense case, was found dead and badly mutilated, according to some reports on January 4, Western Kenya's Nandi district. Kenya's Director of Public Prosecutions has ordered the probe in the letter to police. The order calls for a speedy and thorough investigation to be conducted into the murder with a view of bringing those responsible to justice. Also, at least 38 people have been killed and dozens others injured in massive bomb blast near Police Academy in Yemeni capital Sana'a. The blast was heard across the city and a large plume of smoke was visible in the area of the college. A police source said that a dozen others were wounded in the explosion that targeted a center of Houthi fighters near the Police Academy Officers Club. Lastly, an Israeli military court has convicted a Palestinian of masterminding the kidnapping and killing of 3 Israeli teenagers that triggered a series of events leading to Israel's deadly 50-day offensive against Gaza. Hussein Hassan Kawasme was handed 3 life sentences and also ordered to pay $63,000 in compensation to each of the 3 families. According to the court documents, the accused was convicted of the most serious crimes, the cold-blooded and terrible murder of 3 young people who were going home to their families. The 3 teenagers were abducted from hiking stop near Hebron, sparking a massive manhunt in which hundreds of Israeli troops were deployed. And that's it from the foreign scene. Good morning, Nigeria continues.
Okay, very briefly now on arts and entertainment, Ngozi Chudo takes us around on some reviews of movies that made the headlines in 2014.
Hello and thanks for your time. 2014 was the year Nollywood, in no small measure, stepped up their game. It was not business as usual, as producers and directors crossed their T's and dotted the I's on movie production. Today, we'll take a look at some of those movies that nudged the industry a little closer to the big deal. Since its birth 2 decades ago, Nollywood, the homegrown movie industry, has captivated families and audiences across the continent and beyond. In 2014, the usual tales of love, betrayal, fast money and intrigue was not absent as the industry churned out a number of movies to its credit. However, there was a different twist in 2014. One is actors going behind the scene to direct and produce. More so, it was indeed a year that saw the brilliance of some directors come to bear with attention-grabbing and top-notch movies. First up is Half of a Yellow Sun, released in May. This movie, which features Chinwetele Jofo, is an adaptation of Chiamanda's Half of a Yellow Sun. The movie, shot in Nigeria, was set in the 60s. Cast of the movie was drawn from Hollywood and Nollywood. Another movie was When Love Happens, a romantic comedy which tells the story of Mo, a 28-year-old event planner who plans the biggest weddings in town but hasn't gotten round to having her own wedding yet. These guests are worried and desperate, even though she won't admit and go searching for love in all the wrong places when love was always in her face. It was produced and directed by Shei Baba Tokwe.
I am Fela, who no mortal can ever kill.
Finding Fela was another mind-blowing movie produced by Alex Gibney. It takes a look at the life and music of Nigerian legend Fela Anikulapo Kuti. The movie tells the story of Fela Anikulapo Kuti's life, his music, his social and political importance.
Have you heard what the Lord has done?
Knocking on Heaven's Door was an eye-opener. It tells the story of a beautiful gospel singer who is the envy of her peers, but abhors the dark secret that she has been brutalized in the hands of her charismatic husband, played by Blossom Chukwuchekwu. Comedian turned actor and producer AY showed another side of him when he released 30 Days in Atlanta, an adventurous love story spiced with lots of action and hilarious moments. It paints in beautiful colors the hugely popular and social media trending Bo's character, which was created from the AY show, who wants to be a billionaire, hilarious kids. Then October 1 came with the usual expectation from Kunle's Afolanu's films, and like many said, it didn't disappoint as top performance from the likes of Sadiq Daba made it a huge success. Shot in Lagos and Ondo States, these has been praised by critics for its germane themes, which include tribalism, Western imperialism, amongst others. It's been an interesting journey so far, so let's do this again. Do have a great day and make sure it's productive.
And Ngozi, this year also promises to be even more exciting. It's a year of great expectations in terms of deliverables. Remember, it's the year of the Millennium Development Goals 2015. So much is expected to be delivered this year, Kingsley.
Well, the deadline for delivery 2015 is indeed an interesting year, and for us, next month is crucial and critical, which is what we took a part of which we took our time to discuss today. Very interesting conversation that we had.
Indeed, and we will stay with, of course, a countdown to elections next month. But that's all we have for you on today's edition. Join us again same time tomorrow. I am Claire Adilabu Abdurrazak.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. My pleasure being with you today. See you tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the morning.